What if this isn't your first life? What if you've lived dozens, hundreds, even millions of times before and just don't remember? Every strange instinct, every fear you've never been able to explain, every place that feels oddly familiar could be echoes from lives you've already lived. Across the world, ancient traditions and modern mystics have offered wildly different answers to a single question. How many lives does a soul truly live? Some say it's a handful, others claim millions. But the truth isn't just a number, it's a story that stretches across cultures, centuries, and dimensions. And today, we're going to trace that story from the sacred texts of India to the hypnotic visions of the modern West. Because understanding how many times you've been here might just reveal why you're here at all. Imagine your soul drifting through lifetimes, not just as a human, but as animals, insects, even plants. Imagine passing through the body of a tree, then a fish, then a tiger. And only after this immense journey through every corner of nature, you're finally born. Human. In Hindu and Jain cosmology, this is not metaphor, it's law. Both traditions assert that a soul migrates through 8.4 million different life forms before it earns a human birth. That number isn't poetic exaggeration. It's cited directly in sacred texts like the Skanda Purana, where Vishnu explains to Brahma the existence of 8,400,000 species. In these teachings, each form represents a necessary experience for the soul. Each birth, whether as a blade of grass or a bird of prey, teaches something about existence, suffering, instinct, and survival. The Jain tradition echoes this cosmic arithmetic. Jain scriptures describe 8.4 million birth destinies, not just physical forms, but categories of being, spanning from gods and hell beings to elemental spirits and microbes. It's a worldview that treats all life as sacred steps on the soul's ladder toward liberation. And the implication is staggering. If these teachings are accurate, then the soul is not just ancient. It is practically eternal, moving from form to form in a nearly endless loop. The human life you're living now, it may have taken millions of incarnations just to reach it. In this system, being human is not a given. It's a reward, a milestone, the moment the soul can finally choose to break free from the cycle or fall back into it. This is not just an Eastern myth. It's a radical reframe of your very identity. Because if you've lived 8.4 million lives before this one, you have been everything. The question is, what are you supposed to become now? What if your soul only gets 3 chances to get it right, or 1,000 at most? What if there's a cosmic limit to how many times you're allowed to return? While many traditions speak of countless lifetimes, the mystics of Kabbalah, the esoteric wing of Jewish thought, offer a more defined answer. They believe the soul reincarnates to fulfill its divine mission, and that mission has a deadline. This mystical process is called Gilgul, meaning the rolling or cycling of the soul through different lifetimes. The idea is that a soul comes to earth to carry out sacred tasks, especially the 613 commandments in Jewish law. But if a soul fails in one life, it doesn't vanish, it gets another chance. According to traditional Kabbalistic texts, the soul may be allowed to reincarnate as few as 3 times, or as many as 1,000. 3 lives to fulfill your purpose if you're quick. 1,000 if you struggle, stagnate, or get sidetracked. But after that, the journey in human form ends. The soul continues, but not here, not in flesh. And in rare cases, if a soul becomes deeply imbalanced, it may return not as a person, but as an animal, or even an inanimate object. This isn't punishment in the Western sense. It's repair. These strange rebirths, called tikkunim, are meant to heal something that went fundamentally wrong. Kabbalah doesn't view reincarnation as infinite. It's a cycle with structure, a process with an endpoint. Each life is a narrow passage, a test, a refinement of the soul. And if this teaching is true, then the body you inhabit now might be your final exam, or one of your last chances to remember why you came. Imagine if the number of lives your soul will ever live was already set. Not millions, not infinite, but exactly 777. Not a guess, a blueprint. According to the esoteric teachings of Theosophy, that number isn't symbolic, it's literal. Theosophy, a spiritual movement that emerged in the late 19th century, blends Eastern and Western mysticism into a complex map of soul evolution. Central to its teachings is the idea that each soul, or monad, undergoes a fixed number of incarnations as it matures through different races, civilizations, and ages on Earth. This number is based on writings like the Mahatma Letters, alleged transmissions from ascended masters to early theosophists, such as Helena Blavatsky. In one of these letters, the journey is spelled out with almost mechanical precision. A soul lives one life in each of the 7 root races of humanity. Each root race has 7 sub-races, and each sub-race has 7 branch races. Multiply it out, 7 times 7 times 7, and you get 343. Add the individual lives lived within other minor evolutionary stages, and the final tally reaches 777 incarnations. But this number isn't just mathematical. In Theosophy, it reflects a hidden geometry of the universe. 7 is sacred. It's the number of spiritual completeness, found in chakras, musical scales, days of the week. So to live 777 lives is to complete every possible human experience on this plane. According to Theosophy, once the soul finishes its cycle of 777 incarnations, it graduates from Earth. It may move to higher planes of existence, or return voluntarily as a guide. But its required time here is done. This teaching is striking for its clarity. It rejects randomness. It says you are part of a soul engine, moving deliberately through a long but structured journey. You may be in life number 152 or 600. But if this system holds true, one thing is certain. You're on a path that has an end, and that number is written in the structure of reality itself. What if the average soul doesn't live millions of lives, or even hundreds upon hundreds, but just around 100? That's the surprising consensus emerging from a wide range of New Age teachings, modern channelers, and hypnotic regression studies. Despite their differences in style and language, many of these sources converge on a remarkably similar idea. The soul's journey on Earth is long, but not endless, and most souls complete it in roughly 100 lifetimes. One of the clearest examples of this comes from the Michael Teachings, a channeled body of work that began in the 1970s. According to this system, souls evolve through 5 major stages: infant, baby, young, mature, and old. Each of these stages contains 7 internal steps. In total, there are 35 levels of soul development, and the journey through them takes what the Michael entity describes as well over 100 lives. Fast-learning souls might make it in fewer. Others may need 120 or more. But the average? Just over 100. Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, offered a more individualized view. In thousands of readings between 1923 and 1945, he described people's past lives in vivid detail. Some were told they had 10 prior incarnations, others 30 or more. Cayce never declared a fixed number for everyone, but his readings implied a similar scope. The soul returns as many times as it takes to learn the lessons it needs. And for most, that's somewhere in the double or low triple digits. Then there are the hypnotic regression pioneers. Therapists like Dr. Michael Newton and Dr. Brian Weiss worked with clients under deep trance, helping them recall memories from what appeared to be previous lifetimes. Across countless sessions, a pattern emerged. Most subjects recalled dozens of past lives. Occasionally, someone might reach back through over 100. And while these reports varied, Newton observed that advanced souls typically had lived well over 100 times, sometimes stretching back to prehistoric or non-human existences. Even some modern mediums report similar numbers. Psychic channel Kevin Ryerson, speaking through spirit guides in collaboration with researcher Walter Semkiw, claimed that most souls incarnate about 100 times on Earth before graduation. The criteria? Learning compassion, developing their talents, and balancing karma. After that, the soul may move on to higher realms or choose to return out of love. What's so compelling is that all these sources, channelers, therapists, psychics, arrive at roughly the same ballpark, 100 lives, not millions, not one, and certainly not infinite. That pattern raises a haunting possibility. If most souls follow a path of around 100 lives, then the one you're living right now isn't just some random incarnation. It's a step on a finite ladder, a chapter in a book that's rapidly approaching its final pages. And if you've lived, say, 92 times before, what exactly are you meant to learn in number 93? Can science tell us how many times a soul reincarnates? The short answer is no, but the long answer is far more interesting. Because while mainstream science doesn't officially acknowledge the soul, let alone reincarnation, a small, persistent field of researchers has spent decades studying cases that seem to defy explanation. And what they've found doesn't give us a fixed number, but it strongly suggests this life may not be your first. The most famous of these researchers was Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia. Over the course of his career, Stevenson investigated more than 2,500 cases of young children from around the world who claimed to remember past lives. These weren't vague or poetic recollections. They were detailed memories of people, places, and events the children had never encountered. In over 1,500 of these cases, the previous identity could be verified. Names matched, family details checked out. Some children even had birthmarks that corresponded to wounds from the remembered death. While most of these children remembered only one previous life, a smaller number recalled 2 or more. In rare cases, memories reached back through several incarnations in a row. These stories suggest that reincarnation isn't just a spiritual metaphor. It might be a repeatable human experience. Stevenson's successor, Dr. Jim Tucker, continues this research today. He emphasizes that while these cases don't prove a soul has lived hundreds of lives, they do indicate a pattern. Children typically recall the most recent life, often one that ended suddenly, and this implies something critical. If the soul really does reincarnate repeatedly, most of those lives are simply forgotten. Other researchers and scientifically inclined spiritualists have tried to estimate a plausible average. Walter Semkiw, for instance, combines reincarnation case studies with insights from psychic mediums. His conclusion? That the average soul undergoes roughly 100 incarnations on Earth before it's ready to move on. Importantly, no verified case has ever revealed a soul with memories spanning thousands or millions of lifetimes. Most children remember only 1 or 2. A few remember 5 or 6. That doesn't mean the total number is low. It may mean the rest are buried deeper, forgotten by design, hidden behind the veil that separates lifetimes. From a scientific standpoint, there's no known upper limit to how many times a soul could return. But the evidence points to something deeply personal and specific, that you may be one of those few souls who's begun to remember. And if you are, that raises a deeper question. Why now? Why this life? What is it you're finally ready to uncover? What if you've already lived not just hundreds or thousands of lives, but so many that they can't even be counted? What if the truth isn't a number but a trap? In Buddhism, reincarnation isn't a gift. It's the prison you're trying to escape. At the heart of Buddhist philosophy is samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Unlike other traditions that offer a set number of lifetimes, Buddhism doesn't count, because it doesn't need to. The wheel keeps turning until you wake up. According to the teachings, most beings are trapped in this cycle not because they're meant to evolve through it, but because of one thing: craving. The desire for existence, for identity, for sensation. As long as that desire persists, the soul, or more accurately, the stream of consciousness, keeps returning. The Buddha himself is said to have recalled countless past lives upon reaching enlightenment. The Jataka tales, some of the oldest Buddhist scriptures, recount hundreds of his previous incarnations, each one a step closer to liberation, and yet even the Buddha took eons to awaken. Some Mahayana sources describe him wandering through incalculable lifetimes, perfecting compassion before becoming who he truly was. There are no shortcuts here. In the Theravada tradition, monks sometimes estimate that an ordinary layperson might need hundreds of lives to achieve enlightenment, not as punishment, but as a reflection of how deeply entangled our minds are with illusion. And still, Buddhism offers hope. Because in this tradition, one moment of true clarity can shatter lifetimes of confusion. A single realization, deep, embodied, irreversible, can end the cycle. So Buddhism doesn't ask how many lives you've lived. It asks a far more dangerous question: why are you still here? And if you're brave enough to face the answer, this life, the one you're living right now, could be your last. Across everything we've seen, ancient scriptures, mystical teachings, modern channelers, even scientific research, the number of lifetimes a soul experiences varies wildly. 8.4 million in Hinduism, 1,000 in Kabbalah, 777 in Theosophy, 100 in New Age teachings, and in science, no clear number at all. But what if the reason these figures are so different isn't confusion, but intention? Each tradition speaks from its own metaphysical lens. In Indian cosmology, the soul must journey through every form of life to gain the fullness of experience. 8.4 million isn't just a statistic. It's a sacred roadmap of evolution, from microbe to human. In contrast, Jewish mysticism focuses on moral and spiritual repair. 3 lives might be enough if the soul completes its mission. 1,000 might be necessary if it doesn't. Theosophy sees incarnation as a structured curriculum, a fixed path through cycles of race and consciousness. New Age sources emphasize growth, soul lessons, and karmic balance, tracking lives like progress through an inner school. And science? It reveals fragments, one memory at a time. But underneath the disagreement is a deeper agreement. The soul returns, again and again. Sometimes to learn, sometimes to heal, sometimes simply because it must. The numbers aren't random, they reflect the values of each system. Some emphasize experience, others morality, others still cosmic timing. They're not telling the same story with different numbers, they're telling different stories entirely. And that may be the key, because maybe there isn't a single number. Maybe your soul's journey isn't determined by a universal quota, but by your own readiness, your own path. Some souls may need 800 lives to awaken. Others might do it in 12. So instead of asking, how many lives do we get? Maybe the real question is, how far are you willing to go? And more importantly, how close are you already? At this point, it may be tempting to believe that reincarnation is limited, that a soul returns a few times, completes its lessons, and exits the cycle. But that view doesn't hold up. Not in the research, and not in the broader reality of spiritual experience. Dr. Ian Stevenson's work at the University of Virginia offers compelling data that flatly contradicts the idea of just a handful of lifetimes. Over 2,500 cases of children reporting past life memories were investigated. More than 1,500 were verified. These were not symbolic anecdotes. They were specific names, faces, events, and even physical marks that aligned with real deceased individuals. And in many of these cases, the children remembered multiple previous lives. If even a small percentage of people can recall 2 or more past lives before the age of 7, the statistical implication is staggering. The idea that souls only incarnate 3 or 4 times becomes indefensible. And it's not just about human reincarnation. Many spiritual systems teach that consciousness is not exclusive to humans. It is present, however subtly, in all living forms. Plants, insects, animals, even microbial life operate with levels of awareness appropriate to their design. If consciousness is the medium through which souls travel, then the soul's journey is far older and far broader than the human story alone. It likely passes through millions of forms, simple, complex, visible, invisible, before it ever wears a human face. This is where many modern teachings fall short. They reduce the soul to its moral performance in this world. They imagine reincarnation as an earth-based classroom with a diploma at the end. But the soul is not born for a single curriculum. It is not shaped only by human law. It is an individual traveler navigating a vast metaphysical structure far beyond this world. Souls do not dissolve back into some collective sea. They do not merge and vanish into an impersonal source. Each soul remains distinct, sovereign, eternal. The journey it takes, through stars, species, lifetimes, and worlds, is its own. So when someone says the soul only reincarnates a few times, remember this. Even science now whispers otherwise. The data suggests much more, and the structure of reality demands it. Because consciousness isn't a rarity, it's embedded in everything. And the soul, it's just passing through. By now, one thing is clear. The soul's journey is longer, stranger, and more complex than most of us have been told. The numbers vary, the language changes, but the truth is persistent. You've lived before, many times, and the form you're in now is part of something far older. So the real question isn't how many lives you've had. It's why this one? Why now? Because this life, this incarnation, is not an accident. It's a continuation, a choice, maybe even a test. And if you feel that in your bones, then you're ready for what comes next. Watch one of these related videos that delve deeper into the subject.